host you this afternoon to our launch for the IEA Review of EU Energy Policies 2020. We're delighted today to be with Kadri Simpson, the Energy Commissioner for the EU, and joined also by Dieter Juul Jorgensen, the Director General for Energy at the Commission. Good afternoon. We're also here with Dr. Fatih Birol, our Executive Director, and Sylvia Bayer, who's the Senior Energy Policy Analyst here at the IEA, who led the work for this report. So we will start with a presentation of the report's findings, both by Dr. Birol and by Sylvia. But before we do that, we will hear from the Commissioner. After we are done with the presentation part of the sessions, we will take questions from our media colleagues. For members of the media, please send us your questions through the Q&A chat, through the Q&A box on the Zoom. We're also live streaming this session for our global audience, so hopefully there are many of you watching us also on live stream. So without further ado, I'll turn it to Dr. Birol for his introduction. Okay, or actually, I'm going to turn it to Madam Commissioner. Sorry about that, for your introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And well, I guess we all are waiting for Dr. Birol's intervention too. But before that, it is a great pleasure to open the event and to discuss how we can make EU's energy policy as effective and successful as possible. And I would like to start by thanking Dr. Birol and the authors of the IEA in-depth review, the basis for today's debate. It has been a global effort by experts from Australia, the US, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, Norway, and Switzerland, ably supported by the IEA Secretariat. Our Directorate General for Energy has greatly appreciated the dialogue with all of you. And this review comes at a crucial moment for several reasons. Firstly, it comes in the middle of the fundamental debate across the European Union about how we recover from the economic impact of COVID-19. Secondly, it comes during a major disruption of our energy systems, which in a matter of months has produced changes that many people thought would take decades. And thirdly, it comes as we continue our work to deliver the European Green Deal. It is strange to think that the Green Deal seems so obvious today, because it was really revolutionary when it was presented just 6 months ago. So I must say that reading the report has been both useful and reassuring. We, of course, live and breathe EU energy policy, and we think long and hard before adopting new initiatives. But this in-depth review independently confirms that we have made the right policy choices, and that over the past years, we have made substantial progress in the right direction. At the same time, it highlights areas where we can do better and suggest, for instance, the report recommends that we should foster the integration of policies across end-use sectors by reducing regulatory and pricing barriers and enabling digitalization and electrification. So next month, we will be presenting our first flagship initiative on energy system integration, very much in line with what in-depth review suggests. So our goal is to create a more circular, decentralized and digitalized system, which is much more flexible and efficient and has much less waste. On the very same day, we will also present our strategic roadmap on hydrogen, which will be an important contributor to a cost-effective transition to net zero. The roadmap will set out how we can use the potential of hydrogen in sectors where decarbonization is a challenge, and its role in storing energy and balancing our power system. It will set clean hydrogen targets in the short, medium, and long term. And it will help us to develop the full ecosystem needed for a competitive hydrogen industry, for production to market rules, and from infrastructure and transport to a greater use in a number of industrial sectors to help the creation of a true hydrogen market in Europe. The report also recognizes the importance of implementing the 2030 framework based on the national energy and climate plans and asks us to review policies to scale up energy action towards climate neutrality. The IEA indicates that we will beat our emission reduction targets for 2020. This is good news, but we want to do more and faster. Indeed, before the end of the year, we will also present our 2030 climate target plan, increasing our emission reduction ambition, also a renovation wave for energy efficient buildings, and an offshore energy strategy, and the revision of our trans-European energy networks regulation. Of course, our work has taken on a new dimension after the COVID outbreak and the recovery package presented by the Commission in May. The IEA has been very vocal in its support to a green, sustainable recovery, and this is exactly what the Commission is committed to achieve. The Commission's recovery plan includes a new instrument called Next Generation EU, which would direct 750 billion euros to member states in the form of grants and loans. This comes in addition to our reinforced 7-year budget, known as the MFF, which will be worth of 1.1 trillion euros. This package has the green transition at its heart. We strongly believe that investing in future-looking technologies and innovation is crucial for our recovery and resilience. What the Commission has put on the table provides ample opportunity for doing that in the energy sector. The analysis by IEA will be of great benefit as we plan for this green recovery, and it shows that we have chosen the right target areas, promoting energy efficiency of buildings, investing in the clean technology industries of the future, supporting renewable energy and infrastructure for energy system integration. The report will help us to make the case with our member states that every euro that we spend on green recovery is a euro well spent, with multiple benefits at national levels. The energy sector has the potential to create the investments, jobs, economic growth, and energy and technology exports that will help Europe to get back on its feet. This review is a strong encouragement for us to move forward and even accelerate our policies for a clean energy transition. So we welcome your work, Dr. Birol, and we are glad to count on the partnership and wise advice from the IEA to advance our Green Deal agenda for a climate neutral, more resilient and prosperous Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Commissioner. It is very nice to see you once again. And this time we are going to present our work on EU energy policies in-depth review. So, Madam Commissioner, I am very surprised, positively surprised that there is such a great media interest. We saw the number of journalists and lots of questions coming. It must be that the EU is always on the spotlights nowadays. So a great opportunity for the International Energy Agency. For the colleagues who do not know, we make these in-depth reviews regularly, and it is being our recommendations, our analysis is peer-reviewed and prepared by our member countries, and this time experts across the world, Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland, United States contribute to this review. We look at the entire energy system, make some suggestions, evidence-based suggestions, without fear or favor, as we always do. Now, I would like to go through a few findings only. It will be freely downloadable in our website, together with my colleague, Mrs. Beyer, and highlight a couple of points and some suggestions. First of all, when we look at the emissions last year, 2019, we see that the emissions from EU saw the biggest decline last year in the entire world. It is a result of improvement in renewables, energy efficiency, and from switch from coal to gas last year, biggest decline in the world. Now, coming to this year, globally, of course, we see that the global emissions decline substantially. And this year's decline happening around the world. And when it comes to Europe, the emissions decline this year about 10% we expect in Europe. On top of the emissions decline last year, brings the current emission levels in Europe the level of 1950s. So the year 2020, Europe emissions back to the levels of 1950s, namely bringing back to 70 years the emissions. As a result of what happened in 2019, policy efforts, renewables, efficiency, coal to gas, and 2020, impact of COVID. But now we are 2020, European emissions back to 70 years ago. Big number. But of course, the issue is here, how do we in Europe avoid emissions to rebound with the economic recovery? This is the key question. Now, I will come to that in a moment, but now looking at the one very important sector, the electricity sector, where are we when we compare Europe with other parts of the world? The so-called the decarbonization trends of European electricity system. What we are seeing is that there is a big decline in European electricity in terms of the carbon content, and Europe is by far world leader in terms of the carbon content in the electricity generated. This is again driven by renewables, but also other low carbon sources such as nuclear power plays a role. Now, we can be happy to see that there is a very strong transition of towards clean options. But I want to remind all of us that this picture shows us clean electricity transitions. This is good, but what we are as International Energy Agency, I am sure the same applies to European Commission, interested in is not clean energy transitions, but clean energy transitions. Because electricity is only 23% of the total energy use. We have to look beyond electricity when it comes to Europe, including industry, transportation, and others. Now, as Madam Commissioner rightly mentioned, we are at the IEA concerned about how the recovery will take place, how we can avoid the rebound in emissions globally in Europe and elsewhere, but at the same time, providing the support to the economy, which is bleeding. Now, it is the reason why we have recently came up with a plan, which we call a plan for sustainable recovery globally. This plan aims to look at in the next 3 years how we can have choose the energy policy options to boost the economy, to create jobs, and to provide a sustainable energy future. We are very much concerned about climate change, but we do not live in a different planet. We know that the people in the street are also concerned about boosting the economic growth and also for jobs. Unemployment is a major problem today in Europe, but throughout the world. There is a wave of unemployment coming. So therefore, we have focused on the policies which can, in 3 years of time, boost economic growth, create jobs, and improve our sustainability records. And out of all the policies we have, energy policies we have looked into, 3 of them prove to be top 3 options. Number 1, efficiency improvements. Buildings, but also industry sector, manufacturing industry, textile, food, and the others. Efficiency improvements, number 1. Number 2, acceleration of renewable electricity installations. Solar PV, wind, onshore, offshore, and others. And third, renovation and modernization of the electricity grids, which is very important for electricity security, but also incorporating the renewables in a better way. So these 3 policies, efficiency, renewables, and network grid modernization, are top 3 choices for the International Energy Agency. And our Sustainable Recovery Plan we will focus on the next 3 years in this plan, but it will be important for many years to come. And this would require globally $1 trillion each year. It is only 0.7% of global GDP. And when you look at the investments, energy investments across the world, this is not a big sum. If we do that, if we make our choices rightly in the energy sector, we can see global economy to increase 1 percentage point and create 9 million new jobs each year. This is very important for us. This part, it is the reason we carried out this work together with the IMF in order to show that the energy sector, energy organizations are well aware of the difficult situation on the economy side. They are not only thinking on the energy or climate side, but the impact on the climate change will be also very beneficial. If we do that, if we employ those policies, we will see 2019 remains the definitive peak in global emissions, and as such, pave the way for reaching net zero targets around the world. And this is, we believe, a very important opportunity for all of us, because trillions of dollars are going to be injected in the global economy, and choosing the right energy policies, including them in the global economic packages, will be very important. And it is the reason we are very excited to have very soon IEA's Clean Energy Transition Summit on 9th of July, bringing some 40 governments around the world, United States, Canada, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, all European countries, Madam Commissioner, Vice President Timmermans, China, India, Japan, all ministerial level, 80% of the global emissions, to discuss the Sustainable Recovery Plan. I am thankful to Madam Commissioner to attend this meeting and push a sustainable recovery in Europe and also at a global scale. With these words, I'm now going to turn my colleague, Mrs. Beyer, to take us through some of the key findings of our European in-depth review. Mrs. Beyer, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birol. Ladies and gentlemen, the report we are launching today is reviewing the 5 years that we have behind us, but we have also taken the opportunity to look ahead and to provide inputs, critical ideas for the implementation and the future of Europe's centerpiece strategy, the European Green Deal. As you know, energy accounts for 75% of Europe's greenhouse gas emissions. We feel there is a responsibility, but there is an enabling role of energy action to sustainable recovery, but also to our competitiveness, to the European climate future. The report indeed looks at the transformation of the energy system. And as you have heard from Dr. Birol, this is a electricity transition story. Europeans have led globally. However, the transition is confined to this sector. If we look at transport, industry, and buildings, we see much more opportunities for scaling up actions that are energy sector actions. So improving energy efficiency, increasing the share of low carbon fuels, boosting also end-use electrification. And why is that? You see on this chart the diagnosis of the system, and the report offers insights into each of the sectors where we review the policies and the opportunities for decarbonization. And let me point out to you that, in fact, buildings, residential, commercial buildings, are the biggest energy users together with transport. And transport clearly driven by oil use, while buildings are very much consumers of natural gas and electricity. So on the whole, the entire sector, transport and the building sector, offer a lot of opportunities going forward. And here, in particular, in this way that we can look at an integrated policy mix, energy efficiency, low carbon fuels, and electrification. And this is because we cannot electrify all end users. So we have to keep the policy options and have a few choices open. As you know, the energy system is becoming much more integrated, last but not least because of more electrification, more digitalization, in fact, and new fuels like hydrogen and green gases. So these are all going to revolutionize the way the system is working. The report looks at energy system integration. We looked at different country cases, and we have seen that we have had system integration in heat and electricity. We have also have now more integration in transport with more electric vehicles. The system is becoming more integrated, and our report offers a few policy principles, as this is a very new area. In fact, we believe that there is an opportunity to prioritize energy efficiency, achieve greater cost reductions, decarbonize, and ensure and improve the reliability of the system. So it is not a means in itself to integrate the system, but also the policies have to be more integrated. There are great opportunities for reducing barriers and overlapping rules, particularly where rules are confined to the electricity sector or the gas sector. Last but not least, a lot of risks are emerging in more interconnected systems, new safety questions. So those principles, we believe, are very important for the European strategy that you will present in the future and discuss in the European Union. We looked at electricity security, and why is that? The energy system, of course, now having more electricity in the European Union will become a priority. Surely the EU has strengthened its policy in gas, in oil, and is taking a new approach on electricity security. In fact, the clean energy package, the energy union approach, those are big steps forward. They have and will ensure a more secure electricity sector. And many countries around the world are actually looking at these lessons from Europe and look at the market design European Union is implementing. However, we do expect a bumpy road in the years to come. In the next 10 years, you see on this chart, we see major retirements, and that not only from coal, that is because around 16 countries in the EU are phasing out coal, have decided for that, but also from nuclear, where we are in an aging fleet, and retirements are coming, but also phase-out decisions in the European Union. And last but not least, let's not forget that also a lot of the renewable capacity needs to be replaced and modernized, and a lot more capacity additions will come with ambitious targets for 2030. The mix will change, and it will not be simple to replace coal and nuclear with wind and solar. The system changes and new threats emerge, particularly climate resilience. The European Union has been looking at adaptation for some time, but the infrastructure operators and also the electricity sector as such could be getting more ready to improve the climate resilience. That should be a top priority in the years to come. There is one impact of the changing mix, and that I would like to mention, that is the role of gas. You will see that gas picks up a lot from the coal and the nuclear that is leaving the system. We expect a higher reliance of the system, of the electricity system, on natural gas, with the fast decline of domestic production in the EU. That also has clearly implications for electricity security. I would like to hand over back to Dr. Birol for the key recommendations.
So we are going to finish our presentation by presenting some of our recommendations. And let me again take this opportunity to thank Madam Commissioner for hosting our experts and the reviewers, and also to Director General Madam Jorgensen for very good and frank discussions. First of all, once again and again, congratulations to EU for building an European Green Deal. This is a good model for many countries to get inspirations from. And the successful implementation of European Green Deal will provide an excellent model for many countries around the world, providing a sustainable energy future for Europe, improving hopefully the competitiveness and making sure that the electricity supply is secure. We hope that the building sector, in terms of the COVID-19 recovery, will be at the heart of the European efforts, as the current building stock in Europe is rather old, needs some renovation, and it can be a very good source of creating jobs. Also, we also believe that it is now high time for Europe to consider to reduce the regulatory and pricing barriers to boost energy efficiency further, improve the chances for renewables, and also boost digitalization. We are in the opinion that Europe, in their way, European countries in their way, reaching net zero emissions, Europe needs to keep all clean energy technology options on the table, and need for strengthening the carbon pricing mechanisms, and create a level playing field for sustainable financing. While we congratulate the European Union for putting a lot of emphasis on climate change as such, being a role model for many countries around the world, it is very important that Europe also put emphasis on the electricity and natural gas security. In these last few months, we all understood how essential electricity is for our social and economic lives, and as such, electricity security is very important. And the growing reliance of Europe on imported natural gas also is a reminder for the gas security. Finally, we are very happy to support the European Union for the implementation of the ambitious European Green Deal, and we hope that they will, both Madam Commissioner and Mr. Vice President, will share their views on the European Green Deal at our Global Clean Energy Transitions Summit on 9th of July. Thank you very much. And I pass the word to our Chief Communication Officer, Jet Muad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birol. Thank you for these presentations. As we have many questions coming in, as our practice, we'll take them by three to give you a chance to answer as many as possible. So if I can just jump in and ask them. The first question comes from Anna Hubert from Context. Question number one, can you explain the timing of the report? Is this the special review coinciding with the Green New Deal? I think you produced an answer to that in the introduction. Second question, same from Anna Hubert. Can you clarify your position on the inclusion of nuclear power in the green taxonomy? I'm pretty sure these are two questions for you, Dr. Birol, or for Sylvia. The third question I might direct to our colleagues from the Commission, from Tom Brown from ICIS News, which is, what is the impact of the planned Commission policy framework on energy-intensive industries? Perhaps we can answer these three questions and then take another round of three questions, if you don't mind.
Okay, I will start with the first two questions, and of course, third questions for our colleagues in Brussels. This report is not specially designed to review the Green Deal. This report is done every 5 years to review the energy policies of our members. But of course, European Green Deal is a major new policy drive from our colleagues in Brussels, and it is the reason we have a focus on Green Deal. And of course, while we praise the timing and the comprehensiveness of the Green Deal, we also highlighted some of the areas we think may need attention by our colleagues in Brussels. In terms of the taxonomy, what should be included, what should be excluded, it is of course up to the decision makers, the European decision makers, to decide on this. But our view is Europe, but leave aside the Europe, the world doesn't have the luxury to exclude any low or zero carbon technologies. Some of us may like this technology, the other may like the other zero carbon technology. We all have our favorite zero carbon technology, but the issue is not the boost our egos, but to reduce the CO2 emissions. Therefore, we believe at the IEA, we need all low carbon technologies in general. Of course, the decision makers in Europe, the citizens of Europe, should decide what technologies they will take into consideration or not. But the IEA view is we need all zero carbon technologies, given the order of magnitude of the challenge in front of us to address the climate change.
If I can just repeat the question, if that's useful, what is the impact of the planned Commission policy framework on energy-intensive industries?
Thank you for the question, and I will give a short answer, and then I ask Dita Jørgensen to comment also, because this is the last minute when Dita can be here. Then she moves forward to the closing remarks of our Sustainable Energy Week, Sustainable Energy Week. But I wanted to tell you that we do have a plan for different regions that do have different starting points in EU, and some of them are still mining fossil fuels, but others are very carbon intensive, and their industries are well dependent on the policy decisions that we will make. And for that reason, the Next Generation EU program that allocates 40 billion euros to Just Transition Fund is a very useful tool. But Dita, please use your last minute here with us if you are still online. I'm afraid we have lost our Director General, because she has to conclude our own Energy Week. So next question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. No problem. So I'm going to take another round of questions. The next one is from Amy Harder from Axios. What would be the repercussions if the European Commission moves ahead and excludes natural gas and nuclear power from the sustainable taxonomy framework? You expressed concern about that in the report, so this is a question for Dr. Birol. And then, yep.
I would say that the excluding nuclear power would make the life more challenging, in my view, to reach the climate targets of Europe. I wouldn't say it will be impossible, but it will be more difficult, especially the existing nuclear power plants are cheap source of zero emission technologies. And of course, taking such technologies out of the taxonomy would create challenges to get investment of any technology which is out of the taxonomy defined in the legislation.
Thank you very much. So I think we have time for one more question. We probably need to wrap it up. We will take other questions if you email us at press@IEA. The question from Context, from Anna Huber, what are the main difficulties the IEA identifies for implementing the Green Deal? Please.
I think a Green Deal is perhaps Madam Commissioner may want to also make some remarks on this. Green Deal is a very timely initiative. As Madam Commissioner always mentioned, it's not only energy, but it's also an economic concept as well. And we hope to see Green New Deal is successful. Some of the areas may need attention while implementing the Green Deal is the impact of Green Deal-related policies on the different parts of Europe, different parts of the segments of the population in terms of the inclusiveness, the impact on the competitiveness of European economy, and also European energy security issues. But by and large, we think this is a very well prepared major policy initiative, which we are fully supportive of. Perhaps, Madam Commissioner, would you like to add a few remarks on the Green Deal?
Well, I can only repeat that our proposal, our recovery proposal, says very clearly that the green transition is central for the recovery. And when we proposed our Green Deal, then it wasn't only a climate plan, but it was our growth strategy. So now our proposal for next generation EU funds, well, it very clearly says that the biggest facility, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which will distribute the biggest shares of funds, has to be in accordance to the national resilience plans, and they have to be in line with our national energy and climate plans and just transition plans. So this guides our member states towards necessary investments in energy sector, and I'm truly believe that this proposal helps us to achieve our higher goals.
Okay, many thanks, Madam Commissioner. Many thanks, Dr. Birol, for the presentation. We still have many questions that we will be answering directly via email, but this concludes the presentation and the media launch for European Union IDR. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you.